So today we're talking about intentional progressions, and it's a systematic approach to intensity.
Okay.
So you can apply it in the classes. There's so many ways to do any exercise on the machine, and not every single way to do every exercise has got the same level of intensity. So in order for us to to give people the right amount of challenge to suit their level and help them improve on their level, we have to kind of be able to turn the intensity up and down, or at least understand exactly what they're feeling, where they're feeling it at all times. So you can always adjust it if you need to, but also be intentional with how you deliver it. So the starting point is that every exercise on the machine has a target muscle group, something that the spring tension and the body position is isolating. That's like making work. And the idea then is to start off every exercise in a position which it's not working as hard, and then throughout the exercise make it work harder until the end when we fatigue the muscle. And it's about making sure that everyone can do an exercise for long enough so they can actually get a benefit out of it, and there's enough duration, there's enough load to get mechanical tension on the muscle fibers. So what happens a lot at the moment that I see, a lot of people are teaching like 20 exercises plus in a class. So they're not in movement patterns for long enough to get anything out of it. And a lot of the clients aren't really feeling anything in them. Or sometimes they're being put in positions where they're working really, really hard with, straight away. So the idea today is to make sure that everyone is in a position that's going to be achievable from the start, and that we incrementally increase the intensity in the exercise so we can serve everyone and work every ability level in the room. So it looks like this. So you've got 50-50. So the 50% here, that's referring to the target muscle group working, and 50% target muscle group resting in a movement pattern. So the first position you put someone in, you want them to be working and resting about fairly evenly. And then this is all within one exercise. And then to the progression you offer them, you want to change the work and the rest ratio. So the work increases and the rest decreases in the same exercise. And then to finish the exercise, the work is 100% and the rest is 0. And that will guarantee that everyone's going to be pushed to the limit at the end. And if you're looking at time for an exercise, you could say around 2 minutes here, around 50 seconds to a minute here, and about 15 to 10 seconds here. The benefit of doing this means you're going to teach less exercises. Less exercises means it's going to be less cueing, more time to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, more time for the clients to get better at it. These are scaled levels of intensity that are like milestones of achievement. So if someone can do this, that means they're working harder than this. So that's something to aim at. So they might come to your classes but not be able to do the progression, but over a couple of weeks, maybe they are now. So it's a clear, systemized approach to the delivery of intensity, and people will know where they're at, and they get accustomed to you delivering intensity with intention. They will start to trust you a lot more. It's really hard to trust an instructor when every time they offer something, you don't know if it's going to be harder or not. It's really hard. And that tends to be the thing. And another reason why a lot of exercises tend to be taught is sometimes the instructor will put them in a position where they're working really hard from the first movement pattern. So people start to fail quickly, and then the instructor's forced to change the exercise early. And that just means that so many exercises get taught in the class. The thing about that is that no one really enjoys failing really quick. It's like, there's no point doing too much intensity too soon. It doesn't really benefit people. So let's talk about what 50-50 might look like in an exercise. So if you're doing a lunge, let's say it's like gravity is the challenge. So light springs, medium for beginner, light, intermediate, no springs for advanced. So as you're taking away the tension, you're taking away the support of the spring, helping you stand up. So the challenge is gravity. So when you bend your front knee and you lean your body forward, putting your weight on your front leg, you're loading up the glutes on the front leg.
Yeah.
And then as you push your front leg straight to stand up, letting the carriage come back in, standing tall, the tension that your body weight produced is now redistributed to different parts of your leg. So the glutes aren't really feeling it now. But when you bend your front knee and lean forward, you load the glutes up. So in this position, that's the 50% work. And then this position is the 50% rest. Now, the whole part about intentional means that because we know that this part is the work, that all you have to do is make them spend more time in that position. Because if the focus point of that exercise is training the glutes, then to progress the glute fatigue, we just have to make them work more. And the cool thing is you can add any single movement variation you want as long as it's there.
Okay.
So you could add in like heel lift, rotation. You could do like a row, bicep curl. You do like a reverse fly, whatever, as long as it's that position, because
right.
that the time it takes to perform the extra movement variation there will make them spend longer there, so their glutes will fatigue quicker. And then to finish, all you're doing is putting them in the working position, and they don't get to rest for like 15 seconds or 10 seconds, and then it's complete.
Okay.
And the benefit of starting off in the easiest position, it's going to enable every ability level to do it for the entire duration. That's really important because you want to be able to allow people of different ability levels, even if you're putting people in a room and most of them are at the same level, they're still not the same level. There's still people that are stronger. So if you didn't have this, what would happen is the weaker people, they would be challenged, but the stronger people wouldn't. The stronger people would be cruising. And then by the time you get to the end of the exercise, this is not enough time, 10 or 15 seconds, to really push them. So by adding in the intentional progression on the target muscle group here, now the weaker people and the stronger people are fatiguing at the same time. So that by the time we get to the end of the exercise, everyone's feeling it. Now, if we started like this, that would just be like saying, hey, everyone, hold a plank as long as you can. And what you'd see is the entire room, people would just start to fail. And some people would last for ages and some people wouldn't. But that sucks for a group class, because then there's a whole bunch of people that are just doing nothing while other people are working. So it's pretty much the reverse of that, starting in the easiest position and then turning the intensity up. But it's identifying what is the target muscle group first, then identifying what is the challenge here, because it can only be two potential challenges. It's either gravity, so we're isolating the muscle groups with the body position because we're forcing those muscle groups to support your body weight. Or the challenge is the tension on the springs, so it's heavy pushing or pulling.
Okay.
And once we've got the target muscle group, we've got what is the challenge, then all we have to do is go, what's the scale now? Like, which of these would be the easiest position to be in for the target muscle group, and which is the hardest? And once you've created like a scale, then you intentionally start them in the easiest position and you scale up in intensity. And that will guarantee that everyone can do it for the whole duration, that it makes sense logically. You're applying the intensity. Now, let's paint a picture of something that's not this. Okay? So close your eyes if you want to. I'll be like real dramatic with it. I imagine you're in a group class and the instructor has no systematic approach to applying intensity. So some exercises you're starting off in a really hard position that you can't really do for very long. Other exercises you're in a position where you don't feel anything and the exercise is finished. There's a lot of cueing. There's not a lot of understanding of what we're doing. So some of the exercises you feel it, others you don't, but there's no way of knowing if it was actually beneficial to you. And you kind of go there in the hope you'll get better, but you don't really know if you are. Sometimes you're not doing exercises long enough to actually know what it is, so you can't really get better at it. All right, let's come back. So that scenario is the reality for most studios. The instructors aren't really applying intensity with an intention, and they're not doing movement patterns for long enough or educating in them for the people to get familiar or to improve. So you don't know what you're going to get. The consistency isn't there in the application of intensity. It's unknown for most people. So it's hard to progress someone if there isn't some kind of system or goal. So this is basically a strategy of applying intensity. And it also explains why some classes will teach 20 plus exercises, because if you're teaching a group class and you put everyone into the hardest position straight away, then the instructor is forced to change the exercise to fill the time up. So that the class becomes, shit, I got 20 minutes left. What else am I going to do? And then it just becomes like this kind of non-stop effort to find something else. And instead of having like a purpose to every movement and progressing them to a point, it's just like, shit, we need another exercise. Let's put this in here, and it's just less than ideal. It's not optimal. They're the kind of things that clients, they won't really be able to articulate. They won't go, they taught too many exercises today. Most clients won't say that. They'll just be like, didn't really love it. Not sure why. That's the kind of, it's the same, I suppose, if you go to like a restaurant and the food isn't necessarily awesome, unless you're like really into food and you kind of articulate with it, probably won't be able to explain exactly what it was that you didn't like. There wasn't something about it that just wasn't right. And it's the same with the group classes. Like if the classes, they're not consistent in application of intensity, if they don't have symmetry, if there's no outcome from exercises, it just doesn't feel good. If the exercise variations we're doing don't feel good, it also doesn't contribute to a good experience. If the instructor doesn't engage with you personally, or help you improve, it doesn't feel good. So all these things, they contribute to an experience which is less than optimal. But the cool thing is we've got complete control over every one of those elements. And I think to start with, the intensity thing is really powerful. So if we were going to talk about an exercise, which would be 100 straight off the bat, like a skater, think about a skater, because a skater is you're basically holding a squat. So the glutes are on straight up, and then you're just pushing the carriage out if you're doing that version of it. That's like 100 straight away. The muscle groups aren't getting a chance to rest, really. They're just working. So if you're doing that with like a heavy tension, which would be the most effective, you're going to fatigue fairly quick. And it'd just be like holding a plank and seeing people start to fail. If you wanted to apply the intensity intentionally, what you'd go is, what's the target muscle group? The glutes. What's the challenge? Well, the challenge with this one, if the spring tension is heavy, we're pushing, but it's also body weight because of holding a bent knee position.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both. Which position am I working the most? At the bottom. Okay. So if I want to look at the scale here, to decrease the intensity, I have to spend a time that's not in a squat. So you could start off with like a squat to stand, and then you could add in a skater at the bottom. And then we could scale that up by going, all right, next time we go down, 3 skaters, 1 stand. And then you could finish with just the skaters. And then they would be able to do that for like 3 minutes now. You'd be able to explain what you're doing, why you're doing it. Everyone in the room can do it the whole duration. Every time you offer a progression, it fatigues the target muscle group more, so it's logical. You can explain it. And people appreciate that. They really like, it gives you so much credibility and trust. So that's one exercise in which you could scale it so the intensity is progressed. When it comes to heavy tension means the challenge is the resistance of the springs. We can increase the resistance by either changing the springs or stretching them more. So in this option, to increase intensity for a heavy exercise, the progressions we give should stretch the springs more, should increase the intensity, or make you spend more time in that position.
Yeah.
If the challenge is body weight, gravity is the challenge. And what we're doing is we're taking the weight of your body and we're forcing muscle groups in your body to support that weight. So the load is the body weight, and the body position is going to focus the load on the target muscle group. Like if you're doing a plank, the abdominals are taking the load of your body weight. So the control we have on intensity is how much of the body weight will the abdominals experience. Because if we put them on an incline, then most of the body weight is going to go down through the legs, like let's say on the knees, if it's a half plank, knees touching the floor. So we're only going to experience, I'm going to guess here, about 20% of your body weight, maybe 30, maybe 25% of your body weight going through your abdominals and your upper body. And then as soon as we lift the knees off the floor, now we've changed the distribution of your body weight, and the abdominals are going to need to support more of your body weight now. So that change in intensity has now come from the shift in body positioning. So it's not just that you can spend more time in a position, but you can change the actual position so that it's actually harder too. So many elements you can control, so many, that the main thing is that you have a system to applying it. That's all, really. So
Yep.
once you've got let's do something together right now. So we'll write down on a piece of paper plank. And we'll create a scale. I'm going to do like that. And that scale is going to represent intensity.
Okay.
So the bottom part here is going to be the easiest possible version. And up here, we're going to put the hardest version. Okay. So down the bottom, I would put, let's make it the starting point relative to a group class. Half plank with a box. So you're on your knees and forearms. So the body's on an incline.
Okay.
So if this is the starting position, then I'm going to progress it as if I'd progress it in a group class. So the next thing, I'd maintain the body positioning, but I'd offer a shoulder extension. So you're sliding the carriage out. The next thing I'd offer would be a full plank, same movement pattern. So you can keep the shoulder extension. Okay. Next thing would be an adjustment in the intensity. So how much of the body weight they're going to actually be forced to hold, because that's going to be relative to the spring tension now and also the position of their feet. So what we could do, we could elevate their legs. So let's just say the foot bar is up. Putting their feet on the foot bar would make their body mass more like a horizontal plank, which would make it harder for the abdominals. If the foot bar was down, putting the feet on the foot bar here would stretch the spring less in the same range of motion and actually give them more range to reach, which would decreasing the stretch of the spring is also making it harder. So toes on the foot bar in any position is going to make it harder straight away. You could take the spring off, so there's no spring. That's pretty hard. Or I don't really ever do that for people that were super advanced. That was the only way we could make it harder for them. Let's do that. So that one there, I'm going to just put little dot points of foot bar. And spring change. And then the hardest possible position would be extension of the body. So holding like a static plank with the arms reaching away from you. That would be the hardest possible position with like 100% time under tension, which could be like holding the shoulder extension. All right. So this is one exercise. Now, you might not get to all these different levels because what's going to determine that is based on who's in the room. And if it's a beginner class, it's a high chance there's not going to be people in the room that are going to do the hardest options possible. But the point of this is to give a scale of intensity. So the easiest possible position is the one that we would start with if this is a beginner class. And then from that point, we're choosing harder options to progress. And every one of those options is going to challenge the abdominals more, regardless of who it is, doesn't matter who the human is. Their abdominals are going to work harder in every position as they go along, because there's more of their own body weight going through them. There's more load to have to support. So the intentionality would be, we are going to intentionally start them off in the easiest version, and we're going to scale up the intensity to the end. And that's going to enable us to teach more people for longer, and it's going to give them something to aim at to do it better next time. Can they do the same movement with a higher level of intensity next time? You know, instead of being on the knees, can they bend the toes? The cool thing about that with the toes, full plank, if you've got a spring on, you're stretching the spring in a full plank, so it's actually still giving you support. The main thing is that it's just a little bit harder, and the goal is to do that. Now, what's happening in most classes is we'll go straight into this. Most classes will. And then what you're going to see is some people failing after like 30, 40 seconds, and other people continue for like 90. So once you hit that point where you start to fail, then it's almost like you're kind of at the end of your limit. For most people, it requires so much motivation to be able to push yourself once you've hit that kind of limit. And it's really hard to do that if you fatigue so quick and so early. Like, the motivation required to hold a plank when you're fatigued, it's only really when you know when the finish line is and it's not that far away, you're like, fuck it, I can do it. But if you're like 20 seconds in and you've hit the wall and there's potentially another minute left, you're like, fuck this. Like, I can't do this. And so they don't even try then. And then so that experience for them is like really not great. But if all we did was just put them in a position which they could do it for that long, and then say, hey, do you want to try that? It's just like just a little bit harder. And they're like, fuck it, I can do that. You know what I mean? And then next time they're like, you know what? I'll start off in the half plank again, but I'm going to try the shoulder extensions now at the start instead of doing it after like a minute. And then like a couple of weeks later, they'll be like, oh yeah, we're doing this again. Cool. I'm going to try to do the full plank now because I understand and I've been training this muscle group. I think I can do it. So it's just like, up we go. You know what I mean? And then imagine if this level of intentionality was applied to every single exercise, every single class, how much better the clients would get, because they're always getting the right amount of intensity. And they're always going to be enjoying the process because they can do it. They can do it. And then when it comes to like pushing them past their limit, we could easily encourage someone to hold a plank for an extra 10 seconds or an extra 30 seconds. So that's how we have this kind of superpower to enable them to perform at a high level, because we gave them stuff they could do we push them to a point where they're at their limit, and then we give them really high motivational cueing for the last 10 or 15 or 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just to get that little bit extra out of them. But if we had have put them into that state at the start, then they would not have achieved anything compared to what they had done. So it's just like setting them up for success in every exercise, really. And to put every exercise on that kind of on notice like that, like what's the target muscle group? What's the intensity? Is it less support? Is it more resistance? In which body position is the target muscle group working the most in the exercise? Out of all the potential ways we can do the exercise, what is the easiest one to do it for the target muscle group? And what would be the harder options for it? On a scale, start them in the easiest position, go from there, every exercise. And then there may be some exercises which aren't super clear like that. For example, you could say that a lot of cardio exercises aren't like that, because cardio exercises are kind of fast and full body. However, I'd still say that most cardio exercises would have a body position in which they're working more than the other. So let's just say like a burpee. If you're doing a burpee, like every time you come down to the floor, I'd say you'd be working slightly harder than if you're standing up. You could play, if you're doing this on the machine, with movement patterns at the bottom as opposed to the standing up movement. If you're doing like something like a mountain climber, I would consider a mountain climber like that. Mountain climber is like straight up 100 because it's this high intensity for the abdominals. You could take an exercise like that and you could scale it. So we could actually just control the reps. You could say, all right, everyone, let's come down to the bottom of this burpee. So it's light springs. 10 mountain climbers, come back up to the top. And now what we've done is we've taken something that's 100, we've implemented a rest period. Now we can do it for longer, suitable to more ability levels. And then you can say, hey, everyone, next time we go down, 20 mountain climbers, one rest, if you want. Or you could scale it and say, hey, everyone, every time you go down, can you add on an extra 4 mountain climbers? 14, 18, 22, 26. One rest at the top every time. And you could say to them, if it's cardio, the faster you go, the harder it is. Go as quick as you can. So people are going to, now you've given them the kind of the guidelines on what it is, how to make it harder, what they need to do it better. They're going to be able to do that now. But if we said to everybody, hey, mountain climbers, then you're going to see some people fail early and then other people kind of do it for longer. But it's really hard to enjoy something when your fucking back is against the wall from the start. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't know how long you're going to be there and it's high intensity, you're like, fuck, it's just like, damn. You just want to quit early because it's distressing, I'd say, psychologically. Like, if you told someone to sprint, right? Hey, go sprint, but you didn't give them a finish line, they wouldn't be able to sprint properly. Because you need to understand when it ends, because you've only got so much energy. You're not like infinite really resourced. You got so much energy you can give. You want to be able to be optimal with your output of energy. You don't want to give it all away too soon. You want to be able to make sure you complete the task. So if you're giving, if anyone is giving people exercises that are really hard to start with without some kind of end goal, maybe it's not suited to their ability, then they can't enjoy that. It's just too much. So if you said to them, rather than, I'm speaking for those beginners again, taking exercises which would be 100, scaling them, making them easier, giving them options to make it harder, then everyone can do it. Everyone's going to enjoy it. And then at the end, you can just be like, fuck it. 30 seconds, mountain climbers to finish, you know? But the thing is, that's a finish line, and they've got so much energy left, and they know. And then high motivation, high music, this, da, da, da. All of a sudden, 15 seconds is gone, they're almost there. Like, that will get them over the line.
Right.
And that's the pretty much the strategy of it, really. The strategy is to scale the intensity, to have an understanding of what the purpose of every exercise is, to consistently apply it in every exercise in every class, and watch what happens. It's just like it's like replanting something into a lush, fertile environment. It just grows. It just grows. You're just giving it all the conditions to grow. If you're consistently giving people the right amount of intensity every single class, and all the instructors are doing it, people they're gonna need different springs and heavier dumbbells, because they're not going to stay the same, because you're just overloading them just a little bit more every time. That progression is real, and they're not going to be the same as they were 2 weeks ago or a month ago or 2 months ago. They're just going to be stronger. And
Right.
the thing I love about it, it's so simple. And because you understand why it works, it gives you so much confidence when you teach. It's like, I have a purpose to this. It's not just another exercise that I hope they like. This is a scaled level of intensity with an outcome we're trying to achieve. Everything I say is relevant to their experience. I know exactly what they're going through, and they can trust me to guide them on this process. You know, people just get kind of this, or they are. I honestly think people, they're so blown away by how much you understand what they're going through, that they kind of like bonded to you, especially in those moments of high emotion and high intensity. You know, when the intensity's been scaled up and they're somehow holding on, and you can get them through to the end. That's like a very high emotional state. It's a high like mood, high energy, and you're consistently helping them get there every time. That's, yep. I think they'd probably get some kind of attachment to you emotionally after a certain period of time. Like, this person can help me do this stuff. They're going to think of you and think of all the cool shit that they've done in the last couple of weeks or months. And it's going to be like, that person, like, I love them. Like, they just bring the best out of me, you know? So yeah, that's the key. The key is just to make sure that that everyone understands, all the teachers understand the intensity, how it's different, and how to scale it up. You know, what's the easiest, what's the hardest version of it. Yeah. How does that sound?
That's good. No, I like that. And I think that will be more positive, because I am verbalizing to all the people in my classes that we are trying to challenge ourselves even more. So to do that 50% and move up, I think they'll get that positive themselves, because they'll see their improvement, not just me saying like, look, you can do this. They can try it even, you know, and they can see where they are improving. Because sometimes, I mean, there's so many reformer exercises that you can do that they don't see that they've done better. Or, I mean, and some people do. More privates, I find, are like that. Like, oh, remember last time I did this, I couldn't do this many, or I couldn't do it on this springs or whatever. They notice, or a week ago I couldn't do this and now I can. But in classes, there's just so many people and so many different exercises that they don't get to see their progression. So if we do it this way, then they get to see it themselves, which is accomplishment to themselves. Like even myself at the gym, oh my God, now I can run longer or harder, or I can lift heavier. You know, you notice those little accomplishments in yourself too. And then having the teacher notice them and say, hey, you know, I noticed that you push that harder, or you did that 30 seconds today. Last week, you know, you're only doing 10. That's awesome. That means you're getting stronger. That recognition is really a good positive thing between you two as well, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so powerful. What
Yeah.
an awesome environment that is. Like, I think a lot of people in their lives, there's not a lot of spaces which they can walk into, which they do get recognized and acknowledged for effort.
Yeah.
You know, so creating that environment for people with you is automatically going to be something that's rare for them. So that, like, that is highly motivating in itself, to know that
Yeah.
whatever they do gets seen. It's just like, well, naturally most people want to impress, so they're going to do their best because they love that feeling of being rewarded.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're all like, you know, we're all kind of just group animals, really. We like to be a part of things, and I think it's based like it's like a primal thing to us. So acceptance in groups is like a powerful motivator, and all we're doing is being consistent in the application of reward, you know, socially, and it's based on effort, which I think is the most fair, you know, because it's nothing to do with who they are. It's just with how they behave, you know. It doesn't matter how good they are, so regardless of their ability or who they are, purely based on their effort. So any single person could turn up, and if they put their best foot forward and do their best, that's all you can ask. But they get rewarded for
Yep.
that, and it's so cool. Love to see it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It definitely makes a difference, especially when they can see it themselves, for sure. For
Mm.
sure.
And what you said before about letting them see their own progression,
Yep.
I love that choice of words.
Yeah.
It really is like that.
It
And
is. I mean, I have one client that's really, I mean, she's got some knee issues, so she's always leery of trying new things or standing things. But then when she does it and she can do it, she's like she does, she like almost squeals in the room, like, I did it. I can't believe I did it. Like she's so happy with herself, and everybody else sees that too. So, she's very vocal about it, and everybody in the room hears it and sees it, and they're proud of her, and they're like, yeah, I'm doing it too. Like it's just a good vibe all around, right? Good energy sharing, all that stuff.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Awesome.
Is there any exercises that you want to just cover right now that might, if we apply this strategy to it, to make it work?
No, none that I can think of offhand. I do have two, I have a private and two reformer classes tomorrow back to back. So I'm going to now, once we get off the phone, I'm going to or off the call here, I'm going to put some of the exercises that I had in mind of doing, and now like, what do they call, deconstruct it kind of thing, to
Yeah.
see where, right? So that's what now it is just kind of looking at who I have in the class and looking where the easiest part is and kind of deconstructing it and seeing where we can start and where we can go to. So I'm going to look at that for my classes for tomorrow.
Yeah. Man, the choice of words is phenomenal. You nailed that.
Thanks.
That's really good. I'm excited to hear how that goes. And I'm actually running a class this week. I'm running a workshop it's going to be Saturday for me, but probably Friday for you. It's going to be 1 p.m. here. So it's going to be night time. So
Yeah.
let me just double check. What city are you in?
Toronto time zone.
Okay. So,
I think that's like 11 p.m.
okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. 11 p.m. So if you're very highly motivated and you want to do a workout at 11 p.m., I'm going to be running it live. So I'll be recording it anyway. But I think from the feedback, people have benefited a lot more from being able to observe a class being taught and then getting a class plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's do more of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I enjoy that. I mean, it's good to do even the one-on-ones that we do on early in the week with the exercise and see the differences. And I put a couple of them in tonight, but to do a whole class of it all together, right? Like we've done kind of glutes, and then we've done some abs, and we've done some chest, and now we've done some back, but to kind of start to put it together and see how it flows, it's much, and do it yourself, right? Do the whole
Yep.
class yourself, get it in your own body, and then you're able to teach it better as well. So
Yep. Yes, I agree, 100%.
I don't know, maybe
Wicked.
I'll see if I can convince my husband to do a 11 o'clock Friday night class with me.
We're gonna smash him. We'll get him.
It's a new date night, okay, hon? He's laughing in the background. He says I'm crazy.
Oh, good. Well, well done today. That was awesome. Look
Yeah,
forward to
thanks.
seeing
So
how you
send
go.
me that invite and we'll see if see what we can do for Friday night. I mean, I'd love to see it regardless if we don't see it at the same time, but I definitely would love to see the recording of it for sure.
Okay, I will. I'll send that through. I'll see you later.
Awesome. All right, thanks. Have a great day.
You too.